Hey, Walter Sorrell's back with more tips for the knife maker. Today, we're getting very close to wrapping up the Nightfall project. So for the past couple weeks, I've been taking you through the whole process of getting a knife from idea to market. So the good news is that I've actually got all of the blades done. All I have to do is sharpen them. I may do that today, I may not. I don't know. I always hate sharpening knives, but it's one of those things that's got to be done. So anyway, the big challenge today is to work on the sheaths for all of these Nightfalls. And once that's done, I'll be ready to give all these blades a new home. Anyway, for me, making sheaths has always been a headache. I've actually got an employee who has been doing them for quite a few years now, and I'm ready to, he does them over at his place and stuff, and I'm ready to kind of take that back in-house. Nothing about him, it's just that there's always been this back and forth kind of process where I'll come up with a new idea for a sheath, then I got to take it to his house, which is about an hour away from where I live. He tries it out, sees how it works, then he gives me the sheath back, and then I test it out, and if there's even the tiniest little thing that I'm not happy about, or that I screwed up on my end, or that he didn't quite understand, you know, my intention with some feature of it, whatever it might be, so you have to go back and forth a whole bunch of times to get it right. It's just a headache. So my hope is now to do a completely new process, one that I'll be doing here. It's kind of CNC centric, and the hope is every single one will come out exactly the same. And you know, one of the key points about doing anything with Kydex is that you want to have this retention feature so that you can turn the sheath upside down. And this will be actually an excellent example of how you don't want to do it. This has no retention feature. It's supposed to. It's supposed to click in there, but you know, this is just a prototype. I'm just screwing around, and it came out badly. It kind of retained originally. Now it doesn't. These have got to work each and every time, and what typically happens when you sort of hand make these on a one-off basis is that you have to customize this little retention feature. You have to heat it with a heat gun and kind of monkey around with it. I want that to go away. I want each and every one to work perfectly. So that's what we're aiming to do today.
Before I get started on the sheaths though, I'll go ahead and photograph the Nightfall. Just another one of those intensely time-consuming things that you don't think about when it comes to knife making. I suspect over the years I've taken somewhere in the range of 50,000 pictures of knives. That's not a joke number. I have a catalog of all the photos and video clips I've ever taken, which obviously includes family pictures, pictures of my kid playing baseball, video clips for all the videos I've done, all that stuff, but well over 100,000. And my guess is that half to a third of those maybe are knife shots. Anyway, it's tens of thousands. Not to get too nerdy here, but shooting knives is a tricky thing to do because a knife blade is basically a mirror. You're not just shooting the knife, you're shooting the room, the lights, the floor, the stand, everything that reflects into the blade. So it can actually be pretty technical from a photography standpoint. You want to get different angles and all that, so I end up shooting 50 to 100 shots of every knife I put on my website or feature in a video or whatever. And each time you shoot those shots, you got to light them, you got to put them on a stand of some sort. You got to think about how you're going to actually use that particular photo, which changes the way you might compose it or whatever. You got to clean the knives so there's not too much lint or fingerprints, crap on them, whatever. And every knife's a little different. You can't do them exactly the same way each time. Anyway, the other day I made this cheap little carousel for shooting videos of the knives, so it kind of rotates around and you get different angles. I'll be doing a video about it, but I haven't gotten around to that yet. Probably after Christmas. Anyway, having some motion for a video is always a nice little touch. I used to have this carousel that I operated by pulling a string. It was pretty janky, and needless to say, having a motor is a lot better way of doing it. I always think I'm just going to knock these photos out in about 10 minutes, and it ends up taking an hour and a half, 2 hours. Okay, so with that done, it's now time to get cranking on the sheath. In the past, I and my sheath guy, Michael, have used a Kydex press, but my plan going forward is to use a vacuum table coupled with CNC to get a completely uniform and predictable sheath for every knife, one that doesn't involve a whole lot of hands-on tuning and screwing around to get the fit perfect. Anybody who's made a Kydex sheath knows exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, today I'm making a mold for a vacuum press. I'm using a plastic called HDPE for the mold. The idea is that I'll be cutting a whole bunch of generic molds that will fit in these recesses in the vacuum table. So I can mill all the bottoms for a whole bunch of molds in one throw. Then they're sitting there. Later on, whenever I have a new knife design, I can finish the business side, and then I've got what I need. Like I said, this is something I've struggled with a lot over the years. Everybody has different ways of carrying fixed blades, different preferences. You know, some people like the taco type, some people like two-piece, and there are different ways of clipping them on and all this stuff. Anyway, making a sheath that's generic enough and flexible enough is super tricky. And on top of that, you got the issues of actually making them. Getting the Kydex uniformly and consistently heated, getting the right pressure on the press, getting the knife situated properly in the sheath before pressing it, getting it into the press quickly enough while the Kydex is still hot. Every one of these factors can play in a big way into how well that sheath comes out. Just trying to eliminate that completely. Now, of course, I have several different base sizes for the mold, and of course, I did the wrong one first. But I did the correct one later, came out fine. Now, I've been working on this vacuum system for probably 6 months now, and this is really the first time that I'll be able to give it a full test. Voila! Perfect. Unbelievable. Except for one thing. This was intended to be a right-hand sheath. Been working on variants of this mold for literally months. And guess what? Yeah, left-handed. I'll skip showing you the cursing here, but trust me, it might have happened. Anyway, bottom line, as close as it is to Christmas and with a bunch of other projects that I need to get working on, I'm going to need to wrap this all up. Designing sheath molds is probably the most time-consuming and trickiest thing I've ever done on a CNC machine. So it ain't getting fixed today. In fact, I believe on that note, I am done for the day.
Well, so that's about it. I'm wrapping up the Nightfall series today. If you've been following the series, you know, I've had a lot of fun pulling back the curtain on how I go about making knives on a day-to-day basis, focusing on this knife here, obviously the Nightfall, but today, shutting her down. So I think it's probably appropriate that we're ending here with all my sheath making gear. You know, as you've seen in this video, I've really been struggling with the sheaths, and look, I've got all the knives done. I'm really happy with how they came out, but I'm working on this new vacuum system for making the sheaths, and I'm pretty close here. I'm pretty close, but it's not quite ready for prime time. So I'll go ahead and ship a few of these knives to folks who don't need a sheath. A lot of people like making sheaths themselves. It's a fun little challenge for them. So I'll go ahead and ship a few of these without sheaths. And then after Christmas, I'm going to finish up this process and I'll have sheaths done for these knives that I'm super happy with, but not quite there yet. I should obviously mention that now that I've gone through the whole process, they're all done, they're ready to roll. So if you're interested in picking up one of these for yourself, tacticsarmory.com. As long as I've been doing this, there's still people who are kind of confused about where to get my knives. Maybe 10 years ago, I would have done it differently and not named this Tactics Armory. I would have called it Walter Sorrell's Blades or something like that. Oh yeah, I already have Walter Sorrell's Blades. just for those of you who are interested and have not figured this out already, I have two websites. One is Walter Sorrell's Blades, which is entirely Japanese-oriented stuff, Japanese swords, and I do actually less of that than I used to. And then the other side is Tactics Armory. So if you're interested in picking up a copy of this knife, those are at tacticsarmory.com. Thanks for hanging out with me for the past few weeks. It's really been a lot of fun, just doing a kind of different perspective on what I do. My usual thing, as most of you know, is more of a how-to. So you're following each and everything that I'm doing. So I'm trying to show you exactly how to make a knife. At this point, I've made over 500 videos, I think, over the past, decade and a half. So I'm always looking for something new. So if there's interest in this kind of thing, I can do more of these, show some of the, backstage stuff behind some additional knives that I'll be bringing out this year. On the other hand, if you guys aren't into it, let me know that too. And, I'll just go back to making more how to make this knife type videos. All right, guys, again, thanks for hanging out with me. This has been, 10 videos or something along those lines, following this, this knife, from a bar of steel to what we have here, and a little taste of the whole sheath making side of it. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon. Keep on making those knives.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe and make sure that you click on that bell so you get notified of all the latest videos. Want to buy a knife from me? Check out my modern blades at tacticsarmory.com. Digging the channel? You can support our video making efforts on Patreon. I've been banging away on these videos for like 10 years. So I hope you'll show some love for all that hard work. Link in the cards and descriptions. Finally, if you're interested in making Japanese swords, check out my full line of Japanese sword videos where I show how to forge Japanese swords as well as how to polish them and how to make fittings, handles, and scabbards. WalterSorrellsBlades.com.